Topic, not too near, not too far, relating to others. Dear folks of Baba, in the late 1930s and into the mid-40s, Baba was working with a large group of Eastern and Western women on the hill at Upper Meherabad. At one point, when he was with Helen Dahm, an artist from Switzerland, she complained to him about her difficulties and discomfort in being around so many others. She was a loner type, but he did not humor her and said of this advent that the path is through people. We know when he comes as Buddha, he advocated setting aside periods of time in isolation to meditate on the divine. What is asked of us today is quite different. Baba is emphasizing a family feeling for each other, to be as brother and sisters in his love. From his last message on the alphabet board, Baba went so far as to say that we would realize truth by being bound to each other with internal links. This is extraordinary. He is not only encouraging us to be bound to him, but bound to each other. Baba gave a valuable hint on how to relate to others that keeps our love flowing. Back in the 1930s, Baba gave an order to his men mandli in regard to women: not too near, not too far. I have found this order is of immense and invaluable help in relating to others. I witnessed over the years how Baba's mandli embodied the truth of these words in relating so intimately to all of us when we were with them. Its deeper meaning became clearer to me as I discussed with the mandli what our relationship with others should be. As I wrote in one of the recent emails, Darwin Shaw would tell us that we are embodiments of Baba's ocean of divine love right now, not just in the future. And even though this ocean is striking us with its full force every moment, by the time it passes through all of the layers of our ego and personality with its likes and dislikes, this ocean is often reduced to a mere stream, at most a river. There is little love left to offer to others. However, from the mandli, I learned that there is a way of making the most of the love coming through us. The heart is our primary vehicle for expressing love. And if it is shut down, the flow of love is blocked. Therefore, it is supremely important to keep the heart open and flowing. And that is where Baba's injunction, not too near, not too far, is extremely valuable. If, for example, we are confronted with a person with a prickly personality, we have to be careful not to bring our heart too near. Otherwise, they may lash out and cause our heart to shut down. And so the flow of love, which is what we are here to express, is blocked. This is not done for self-protection, but for safeguarding the flow of our love. Thus, it is important to position ourselves by withdrawing inwardly a certain distance, which allows the person to be their prickly self without causing our heart to shut down. Even in the course of conversation, we may have to withdraw at times when sharp or sarcastic remarks are likely to happen. The whole aim is to keep the love flowing toward the other person, because if we don't flow out with love to others, this can be done invisibly. We diminish ourselves by that much. Our life becomes smaller. The same is true if our heart is too distant. Others don't know how to relate to us, and so they keep their love at a distance, and we miss out on the joy of the give and take of love with others. However, if a person is especially abusive or even dangerous, we may have to love them from a great distance, from afar. Baba's simple advice is an invaluable guideline in relating to others, which enables our love to continue flowing and maintaining, as Baba has encouraged, our internal links with others. Tuning into our intuition moment to moment is our best guide in this process. Of course, when our heart is deeply broken, as in a divorce or the death of a loved one, the heart may shut down for years, and that usually requires a different method altogether to get the love flowing again. How do you how do you see your heart responding in situations with others? Do you sometimes come too close to them and frequently get your heart hurt? Do you play it safe and keep a distance, but then lose some of the intimacy with others? What kinds of behavior from others do you find that shuts down your heart? Are you particularly sensitive to such things as sarcasm or indifference or a superior air expressed by others? What type of treatment from others hurts your heart? How do you deal with these subtle and problematic situations? Is there any more? Baba has said, how can you realize my infinite presence if you shrink from me in those who hurt you and welcome me only in those who please you? In his love, Jeff.
Thank you. I don't know, is this understandable? I mean, I write these things and I don't know exactly whether I express it clearly enough. It's been like invaluable for me, but any questions about it? And
I think you're spot on, Jeff. I think you put it very, very succinctly,
oh,
if I can
oh,
say
well,
so.
thank you. Yeah,
Very well expressed. Yeah.
yeah. Anyone? The one thing that I should say is that we're not we're not defending our ego. We're defending our heart, which is the vehicle for expressing love. We're defending love, and it's not, we're not actually defending our ego. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyone have something to share on this? Ah,
I'm going to be ballsy here.
okay.
So Baba says to think of him as your constant companion. He will never disappoint you, leave you. And we all know, and we all here have had people disappoint us and leave us. So I think it's what this is leading to is when your heart starts to shut down because you've been hurt for whatever any one of those reasons is to, and therefore it stops the flow, just like you said, is to remember that Baba's the only one that it should be going to anyway.
Aha.
But am I hearing that right?
Yeah, that's true, but that person in front of you happens to be Baba in disguise also. I mean, but I mean, if inwardly you can flow to Baba, and that's the primary focus, I would say. But flowing out to others, I mean, say if you're, the way I take it, if I get hurt by someone, if my heart gets hurt by someone, I just have to reposition myself and and try to get the flow toward them back, because as I said in there, anyone we don't flow out to, we diminish ourselves by that much. But we may have to be way back, especially with someone that's abusive. You may have to be way back in order for the love for you to flow. You have to stay at a safe distance. But I feel like I never felt the Mandali had it, the dislikes. They didn't have the privilege of liking or disliking anyone. They had to keep that love going out. But they were true to love, even if their heart had to be back. I don't know if that helps, Diane. There are other smart people here on the screen, so chime in if you can help respond to Diane's. The problem is if we shut down to somebody else, that actually, to me, we are diminishing ourselves. Oh, I can't hear you, Diane. You're
So
muted.
I want to say one thing. Hunter
Yeah.
is really smart. So just saying that's one name I saw that I know is really a wise human being.
Oh, is Hunter here?
Yeah, I totally just outed him. Sorry.
Oh,
He was,
good.
um,
Yeah.
when someone, it's not abusive, but what they did was aggressive and hurtful. And the apology was somewhat there, but not to my satisfaction
Yeah.
because I still feel misunderstood.
Yeah.
And I'm keenly aware of how many times I've heard you say that Baba's talked about that you don't need to be right. In fact, especially when you're right, is to when you should back down. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Am I quoting you
Yeah.
right?
Being loving is better than being right. Yeah.
But I also feel a bit unsafe with this person because for them to have gone so far off the swimming lanes, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's when your theme of not too close, not too far starts to come in, that maybe if I practice that, the love can flow again and I'll get past my need to shower him with my rightness.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you can tell when you got the love flowing back to somebody, but you might have to be way back, because love is the important thing, not how close or far back your heart is, but that the love you find the place where love can flow. I mean, like I don't know if Bradley is there. Is Bradley there also, Hunter? Because Bradley said something about his mother.
Our signal is not really good enough to join the call fully, so we're just listening, but he is here.
Oh, well, we can hear you. Bradley, say about what you have done with your mother.
Oh, wait, he just walked away, so he's not able to hear it. This isn't on my
Okay.
hearing aids, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll say what Bradley told me today, because they're both on the center, is that his mother was, critical and a little bit verbally abusive and everything. And he actually had to pull back, in order to love his mother. So he gets to continue loving his mother. If he had stayed close, like a son, like the stereotypical son should be, his heart would be shut down over and over again. So he is backed up where he can love his mother, and his mother's happy to be receiving the love. Even though she doesn't necessarily even know that he's backed up a ways in order to not be hurt by her comments, her kind of sarcastic whatever, I don't know exactly what, but her remarks would hurt his feelings. So
Yes, and I can't speak for him, but I can say, having been witness, that as long as he was trying to be close to her, by a mental definition of closeness, he would get hurt again and again, and his heart would open and close, understandably, as he was injured. But I've gotten to watch as he found a distance that was what Baba wanted for him, the distance that was right distance in his deepest intuitive understanding of Baba's, what pleases Baba. Suddenly he could just love her completely without trying to reach across the net to get her to take his hand, without pushing away. Um, and it was beautiful to watch the happiness that he had in loving her, regardless of her. It was a joy.
Excellent. Beautiful. Yeah. Seeing Christina there, I'm not going to ask you now, but you were the reason why I came up with this topic, as I said I would bring this matter up. Yeah. Anyone else feel like weighing in here?
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Anyone else? Well, I'll share my thing. It's very difficult. Before Baba, before I came to Baba, like Hunter was saying about Bradley, I tried to get up really close to people. Love meant being close. And so I would get my heart, close, and then you wind up, someone lashing out or, taking advantage of you. And what would happen is that, my heart would get shut down, but also my ego would come in, like, well, I better stay away from that person, or that person is like, they're not reciprocating. So I would have these kinds of reaction, and so, and then like I say, my sense of love back then was get up close, and then one day, this is back around 1970, Darwin, I remember him saying, sometimes you have to love from a distance. And I did not like that. I remember, I kind of recoiled. Love someone at a distance? What kind of love is that? We should be up close and love each other. And then I went to India in the early 70s, and Erich would quote this thing in the early years. He didn't do it later on, but he would say, to keep friendship evergreen, let there be a hedge between. I thought, oh my God, Erich. I did not like that. So, but it was this not too near, not too far, this way approach eventually became, I saw the supreme value of it, that my responsibility was to keep the love flowing, not necessarily bringing my heart close in the worldly sense, but to have my heart at the distance where love is continue to flow. And oddly enough, someone who might be prickly, if you back off, but your love can still flow, they actually feel that you're really loving them. They don't know that you've had to move back, oddly enough, because they're more than compensated by the love that's flowing toward them. So anyway.
Yes, Ron.
I have a couple of ideas that I think go along with the theme. One of them is something that Baba said. He gave an image that maybe we're all prickly at different times in different ways. And so he imagined each of us being like a thorn. And he thought, now if you keep the thorns apart, they can really hurt you. But if you were to bring all the thorns together very closely, then if you were to put your hand on it, it wouldn't hurt so much because the weight of your hand is distributed with a lot of thorns. So does that make sense? Yeah, like the yogi who sleeps on a bed of nails or something. If he sleeps on one nail, he's going to be in trouble. But if he sleeps on an entire bed full of nails, it's not really that difficult. So there's that idea, and also Baba said that the thorn, you can make a wall of the thorns, and it will be protective to the love that you're sharing. But you don't have to be, if you point the thorns to each other, then somebody's going to get poked. Otherwise, if you're just side by side, you're not going to hurt You're not going to really hurt each other if you keep close that way. The other idea that I had is it has to do with the complications of relationship. And you might say that there's three basic areas in which one can have a relationship with another person. The three that I read about one time that struck me, and I still think is a very valid idea, is you can have a social relationship, you can have a business relationship, which may be with finances involved, or a domestic relationship where you actually live with someone. Now, the thing about these various kinds of types of relationships is I think the best result comes from having the fewest relationships with another person. In other words, if you want to socialize with somebody, fine, but don't live with them and go into business with them at the same time, because it's just going to be too complicated. And you make one, if you're weak in one area, if either one of you is weak in one area, that blows the whole thing. Whereas if you were really good in the social, then you're good. You don't have to get closer by complicating it with another area of relating. So I think that explains what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't even bring that into the picture. Yeah.
Hunter. Hunter? Oh. No, Hunter? Okay.
Hunter just disappeared. Wait. Oh, Hunter.
There
Yeah.
he is. I think
Can
you put
you?
your hand up again, Hunter, or not?
Yes, no,
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
it's okay.
Figuring out how to turn unmute.
Okay, that's fine.
The other the place where I find my edge in working with this often is I confuse love with mutual acceptance, with agreement, with approving of each other, with a feeling of emotional warmth, and so it has me having to admit sometimes that I don't actually know what love is, because there are all these other things that my whole life I was taught to confuse with love. And I remember Baba saying to someone, I don't remember who it's at one point, that he didn't ask us to feel him, he asked us to love him, which really touched me and inspired me at one point when I heard it, until I let it in a little more deeply and realized that I didn't really know the difference between a feeling of being loving and really loving. And so I find this conversation really helpful, and it opens a doorway to begging Baba to teach me more about what it means to actually love, and to have a heart that's open to love, and not a heart that is doing all of the circus tricks that it learned to do as imitations of loving or appearing to be loving. So it takes me back to Baba's feet again and again and again, asking him to show me what is love. And I do believe my heart, because he created it to love, my heart knows. And I'm just making things too confusing. But I am making things too confusing pretty often. And I keep coming back to that place of Baba. I don't know what love is. I think I know, but mostly it's things I've been taught that other people thought were love. And I had to come back to zero. I had to come back to zero and ask him to show me, and ask him to love through me, because I don't know.
But I would say, Hunter, you have an abiding warmth toward others. So if that isn't love, I don't know. It emanates from you, and it may not be up to your standards, but it's fine for me. Yeah,
Christina.
thank you.
So I just wanted to say thank you to Hunter. That was beautiful. And also to Jeff that, yeah, I also suffer from assuming, I don't know, I guess I come from, the Baba world, growing up in the Baba world where everyone is fairly loving to you, especially when you're a child. And the assumptions I grew up with is that, the world is a warm, cozy, friendly place. And and so my tender heart, out in the world it's definitely struggled to realize that it's not always that way. It can be that way, but it's not always that way. And so I've had difficult experiences, especially in my elementary through high school years, where, meeting kids of different types from different backgrounds, different levels of, I guess, kindness and unkindness, that would certainly stop the flow of love in me growing up. And then, as an adult in my 40s, I still struggle with feeling emotionally shut down in the world. It obviously gets better when I talk to Baba people or family or when I go to Sahavas, but it's a tricky thing to balance because, my heart, like I think a lot of us, just wants to love, but it's not always, I guess, received when it's so close up, right? I think what Jeff was saying, it's not always received well by people. So learning to back off and be a little less enthusiastic about loving other people is maybe a little bit easier for the receivers, especially people who don't know me as well. So I'm still learning, to take my cue from the other person. When can I approach someone with exuberance and love and, warmth, and when is it better just to hang back and dip my toe in the water just a little bit, right? For their sake, not just for my own sake, but for their sake, so that it's a better experience for everyone in an interaction. So
Yeah, I mean, positioning yourself back doesn't mean that you're less loving. You can be, by positioning yourself back a little bit, that enables you to be more loving.
Yeah,
Than if you're
exactly. Yeah, and
close
that's
and
an
you're getting
interesting.
hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a really important concept. I think it's not distance for protection's sake, but it's distance for the sake of being more loving.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah,
Beautifully said. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Anyone else feel like venturing out? Aha.
Robert.
Yes, hi, Jay Baba, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, something that I've learned, and I forget it all the time, and I really appreciate the reminder to keep the love flowing, because sometimes I forget to do that. But I definitely went through some trauma with my mom. My mom was a rageaholic, but she's no longer with us. But the thing that I've learned, I've been in Al-Anon and 12 other STREP programs myself, and one of the things I've learned is to recognize that the person is sick and suffering themselves. And that helps to like detach a bit. One of the other principles in Al-Anon is detach with love. and just recognize this person, it's not me that they're barking at. They're barking. Their bark is coming from their own wounds that they have from who knows where. Still, at the same time, it's not easy to maintain a closeness with that person. And I definitely distanced myself from my mom and probably at some level cut myself off from my love for her. And I definitely did that, but it has come back, even though she's in the afterlife. So, but I've come to recognize the gifts that she did give me. That's been helpful to recognize that, to not just focus on the negative, but to recognize all the pain that she was in and to be compassionate for that, and that helps to keep the love coming again, keep the love coming back. But it does take work, especially after, being cut off from it for so long, But anyway, I appreciate the topic and the reminder. And it also goes back to what I shared last week, is to pray to love the person again, to pray for the person, to pray for their healing, or just to give rather than focus on what I'm not getting from the person. So
Yeah,
anyway,
beautifully said, Robert. Beautiful. Yeah. Wonderful.
Hey, Rich.
Hello. I I know I have some ideas on this, but I really think that my experience is too limited to be very cogent, about the whole subject. But one of the things for me that plays into this is probably my desire to be liked by someone, or maybe my even attraction to someone, or my interest in someone has always been based upon my own needs or desires, or whether unconscious, subconscious, whatever. And that stuff never seems to really work out. You can find a friendship in the midst of activity, I think, or some social action, group or something. But what I found in terms of actual difficulty with others is that I'm not convinced that any of us can love from the ego point of view. I don't think I can. But I really don't think that's human love at best, from what Baba says, like a mother and a child, whatever that arrangement is. There's quite a bit of human love in it. And there's also something more. There's something more divine, probably inspired. But so for me, and I'm at an older age where I can't take into account a busy life, encountering all kinds of people, meeting this one and that one, or being married, or involved with people at different levels. Like Ron was talking about business, social, personal, friendships, whatever. And I've had several different kinds of friendships in my life, I think. But the bottom line is, for me, if I really want to relate to someone, I have to try to allow Baba to do that. And it works. I mean, I'm very limited, I think, I'm quite a few 100 million lifetimes from the saint, part. But but I think if I let Baba in there, what happens for me is I begin to try to see, well, who is this person? Who am I talking to? Who am I relating to? Instead of, what interest do I have in this person? So I don't have to have any interest in someone, but I can still strike some form of communication or link, and it's got to be conscious as possible. And invariably, because of Baba, it involves the heart. It always involves the heart. If you're doing it with Baba, it will always involve the heart. So you can get slapped in the face once in a while, I mean, it's bound to happen, because we need that sort of thing to recognize that life in creation is not supposed to be just a Disney world, you know. But the thing with Baba is that the learning process with Baba is something I still don't understand, I think, best way to put it. Because if I say I think of one person who I know right now, I have a great interest in this person, but I want to make sure that I maintain an appropriate boundary with the person. I do not want to have them feel that suddenly I'm trying to invade their life, interfere with their life, or grab something from them in their life, because it's their life. And so this sort of thing is more about patience, probably. You can build friendships. I'm convinced of that. You can really build friendships, but somehow it has to be out of respect for who they are. And just like I'll use Diane and Terry, they're easy targets. I mean, they're good examples. And it's like, I can see that they have clearly they have a relationship. So it helps me in one sense that I can try to identify, well, who is Terry? You know, and I don't know them really well, or who is Diane? And they've told me a little bit or told us all a little bit about themselves. But all I know for sure is they have a relationship, and they're outgoing, and they're considerate and kind and loving, and they have deep wisdom. So it's easy for me in my heart to say, well, I'm going to give these people all the credit I can, you know, because I'm pretty limited in my own ways about how I understand others and how different people can be. But without Baba, I don't think I have a sense of purpose. One more comment. So I'll go to the natural food store or Sprouts, which we have here, and I'm looking for groceries, but I really try to make a connection with anybody that I interact with, like the cashier. I actually try to make an actual connection. I don't try to just buy my groceries. I actually try to look them in the eyes and see who they are and say something, maybe some form of interaction. I like humor if I can pull it off. But what that allows me to do is try to connect with Baba in that moment together. And that's really good for me. But I'm still a few hundred years off from sainthood. Maybe a few 100,000 years.
Lifetimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lifetimes. That's even more. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lifetimes.
He's fresh in from the animal kingdom. Richard Sanders.
Hey, Tony.
Hi everyone, Jay Baba. I haven't been sharing much lately, and this subject definitely spoke to me. But I'm not sure what to say about. I'm thinking of the quote from Hafiz that Baba quoted, that only one who wears his heart on his sleeve dares kiss the threshold of love, and I kind of try to live by that. But in this case, I'm not sure what I can really say, so I'm just kind of wing it a little bit. I have Moon in Pisces, so I am very attuned to other people. I have a certain amount of instinctive empathy, a sense of what people are going through, and can give a certain amount of just connection. Um, on the other hand, if I am confronted where there is a loving connection of some kind with sarcasm, I have, I, I'm not very good at distancing myself. Um, I really feel it. I feel the pain. I feel the hurt. I don't, as a Virgo, I don't like to think, oh no, nothing, doesn't matter. But it does. I feel it, and I try and talk it around it, but as it's when it's in play, it just keeps on. And my strongest instinctive reaction usually involves some kind of expletive. um, I don't know what to do with that. I can, if I take extra time with Baba and return to the world, so to speak, I can see a shift in things because somehow I've let that love percolate in me. But it is one of the most difficult things in my experience is dealing with sarcasm or half-heartedness, and kind of indifference or sarcasm. Everything I read in your write-up, Jeff, caused me a lot of pain. I mean, because there's nothing, I can't say anything helpful to anyone. Nah, I'm just, it's the most consistent thing. I suppose it's really important because Baba has me confronting that regularly. I mean, with a certain consistency, and then healing spaces and loving spaces, and then out of the blue, there it is again. And so yeah, I don't know what to do about that. There was, I think I had something else. No, I said it. The Pisces, the expletives. Yeah, that's about it. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know it. I feel it now. If I have something that caused that an hour ago, I'm feeling it now, and it's difficult to even shake it loose because, oh yes, there is the other thing, because I am so attuned to what other people are feeling and wanting to be acknowledging of that. The most fierce thing that gets to me is when I am described as being thoughtless or hurtful or intentionally trying to cause pain to someone, and that I just, like, I don't know what to do or say, and it's probably the worst thing. So there I am.
Tony, I remember your story. Tony, your story about Elena's caretaker. Everything seemed fine, and all of a sudden she just blasted you guys.
Oh, that's an old story. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's no longer with us.
Right.
She took about a year to show whatever was distressing her. Had nothing to do with us. No, it has to be more personal. It has to be where I feel connection, a deep loving connection, and yeah.
And then you're betrayed somehow.
Well, I wouldn't even
By
call it betrayal. It's just,
Yeah.
it feels like violence. It may
Yeah.
it's like emotional violence,
Yeah.
and where where your orientation is anything but that. So it's like yeah, and I don't really feel like there's more I should say about it. It's just that.
Yeah.
Tony,
Yeah.
when that happens, Tony, what happens to your heart when you feel that?
Oh, it's yeah. Well, there's there's it's closed. It's
So you
feeling
close it. Okay,
bruised.
it's closed.
It's closed, and it's yeah, and that's the pain. The pain is from the heart being closed. Absolutely. If I could, and at times I can, and at times, depending on where I'm at, I can confront the seemingly exact same situation, and for whatever reason, maybe my contact with Baba at that moment, the heart remains open, and no, that is totally fine. But when I am really conscious of hurting, then it's very likely I shut down or say something not nice and fierce. Which always helps. It never helps.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Sabine.
Right, let's see if my tired brain can pull this together. So when I was reading your email, Jeff, I thought, I think I had a lot of experience with meeting prickly people. Being a nurse for so many years, you're bound to come close to people that are very prickly, and you don't really have the option to withdraw. You somehow have to make it work.
Yeah.
And I find it really helpful to try to get to know the person and their story a bit more. In nursing, even as a young student nurse, I think I realized I don't have the option to close my heart, because then I will not be able to work with that person. So I think Baba always gave me that gift to let the love flow and sort of wiggle my way in with that flow of love, to wiggle my way past the thorns of the thorniness and get to the person. And I always find, even if I only understand a little bit of what has caused the prickliness, it's much easier for me to take it. If there's just a little bit of understanding where that pain might be coming from, why they need to display that behavior to protect themselves or to express where they are, it helps me enormously. And so over the years, with having so much experience in my profession with it, I was able to, in private situation, then to stay in a situation much longer, not really to endure it, but to be able just to hold it, to figure out what might be causing it. And maybe I sort of naturally do that distance and letting the love flow. I don't know. It just sort of was something that gradually developed with staying in nursing and staying in life. And yeah. And I had a very sort of destructive mother. And for me, really, distance needed to be physical. I mean, I moved away to Switzerland and later to the UK. And then I was able to open my heart again for her and let the love flow. So, you know, I know that situation as well, as sometimes you really have to physically distance yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's
beautifully.
what I wanted to share.
Yeah, beautifully said, Sabine. You know, there's a line from Henry Wordsworth Longfellow, no, Henry something or other, where he says,
Longfellow. Yes, Wordsworth
Longfellow,
Longfellow.
he says,
Wadsworth.
Wadsworth, that's it. What did I say? Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Anyway, he said, if we were to see this, to see the secret history of our enemies, we would find in their life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. Beautiful line.
Exactly. Yeah.
If we could
Yeah.
see into the secret history of our enemy, we would see in their life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. What you said there kind of reminds me of that line. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, Tina.
I read somewhere that sarcasm means to tear flesh.
Ooh,
Ooh. Oh,
wow.
yeah. Don't tell Henry. I don't tell Tony that. Wow. You scare him off.
In the movie Anger Management with Jack Nicholson, if I'm remembering the quote correctly, he says something like, "Sarcasm is anger's ugly cousin."
Ooh. Okay. Let's go for it.
Ron?
Well, oh yeah, no, we'll let Jennifer go. 'Cause Ronnie's gone once. Let
Oh, okay,
Jennifer.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There we
Uh-oh.
go. I'm on my phone, so it's sort
Yeah.
of an easy thing. Yeah, you know, I like that, thinking about the sarcasm and criticism as something, how to manage your heart when you're with people who are sarcastic and critical, um, as a regular way. So when I was married, my husband's family, that was their mode of operation. And it was hard to be a part of that, and I would feel it would I would feel withdrawn when I would hear that, and I would ask about it to my husband, and he said, oh no, this is how we show we love each other, by poking and prodding and being critical, and these, in sort of a ha ha ha, laughing sort of way, like it was humorous to them. But I could always feel the undercurrents of just a lot of pain. And so that was really hard. And so that was how I dealt with that, because I really saw a lot of good in these people. And it was just baffling to me that this is how people would show their love, because it wasn't love. And so what it came to me to determine was they didn't really know how to love. They were shut down. So that was interesting. And then, right now with the political situation, I'm struggling. I'll just say, um, trying to stay open and loving as I see what people are doing to each other in the world. And so I have to step back and try not to be too critical. I just look and talk to Baba and just say, I'm going to try to stay loving, because these are your people doing whatever it is that's happening, the way things are unfolding. That's a hard one. That's a hard one for me. But then one last thing is that um, I really enjoy people, and I have really made an effort to see the beauty and the differences between people. So this last weekend, I was doing a little equine training session for some kids out of school. They came out for a field trip at one of my friends' place. So we were working with them with the horses, and there was one kid, and he had his long hair over his eyes. You couldn't see his eyes. He wasn't comfortable making eye contact. He was very reserved. He was stepped back by the kids. I don't know why I loved that kid. I just loved that kid. There was something about him. And so we started working with the horses and showing them how to put their hands on the horses. I do this energy work thing. And I came up as I showed him what to do. He said he wanted to try it, and I showed him. And he looked at me with this sparkle in his eyes for a minute, and he said, I love this. And, so from this kid who was kind of stepped back, sometimes there's people who look like they're not making contact with you, I guess I'm trying to say, but you can feel that their heart is open. And when that's that way, you get this opportunity to kind of let your love flow even more. And it felt like something that, I don't know, it just felt really powerful. So this monitoring thing, even though I don't really want to monitor, I really want to care and understand and know people's story and know them deeply. But sometimes it's hard, especially if we're in a close working situation. You all talked about um, working with people in in nursing and things like that. When I was working, I had some prickly people who actually wanted to get me fired. And it was hard because I think I'm better now, but back then I took things so personally and my ego was so involved in the situation. I don't know that I could have found a loving way to be. I think it just takes a lot of practice. Don't you think? I think it's a constant practice. So that's all my
Yeah.
well,
Beautiful. Thank you, Jennifer. That's you.
Who should we take next, Jeff?
Let's go for Shaw and then Ronnie. And Ronnie
Okay.
definitely is the next one afterwards, even if someone tries to get in line.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff, I'm pretty tired. I've been thinking about this stuff for months. I'm really at a quandary as to where to go from here. So ask me a question and I'll tell you why.
Are you asking me that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you can't, then I'll say one thing. The bottom line is love. The whole reason for doing anything that, where you're exposing yourself, in my case was love. And the end result was always working towards more love. The problem was honesty. So when power loses touch with honesty, that infects the whole community. And that's why you have to stick at it for 34 years.
That's why you have to what?
You have to stick at it for 34 years, okay? Because when you see that honesty is still being manipulated, there's still a problem. But at this point, it's not important to know all the details. And some of these details are not known, even in terms of what I've written. But I don't think they ever should be known. But it just gave me a perspective that where I knew, like, okay, I have to go at the root of the problem. The only way I can do it is to open it up. But at this point, I find that I have to protect the very person that I was not really meant to be adversarial with, but was kind of put into that type of situation. So, because as you say, these situations can cause a lot of pain, and people don't know where to go with it. And so this is a big concern. So you don't want to be a part of more pain. So, so basically, my concern at this point is actually to protect that person. And I think that the beauty of this is that there's enough love in all of us to care so much about this community that to want to get to a better place. And so, I think that in these times, as I've said, there's so much darkness in this world that, I've been involved in a lot of spiritual communities because at a certain point I had to go to different spiritual communities because I was sort of locked out of this one. And always, so the formula that I know to heal any situation is truth, but truth with love, and the purer the love, that brings you into real beauty. That brings you into divine energy. That brings you into the will of God and the wish of God. So what I think this other person is afraid of is if the truth were really known, this person wouldn't be accepted. And after all that I've been through for 34 years, I will be there for that person because that was the whole reason in the first place, was to bring healing. So if somebody were to not accept that person, I would be against them.
Yeah.
And basically that's the real thing. When you take on a problem and then you follow it through and you keep on following through and you don't give up on it. But you can only do that if your intent is of a very high level. Because after all that I've been through, you can't sustain if that's not your intent.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, if this community can get through that, then we're ready for what's coming. If we can't, then darkness will have a way to work its way in. So basically, we've got to be there for each other, no matter what it is that we're growing through. And when it comes to people that are more in a position of power, it's very difficult because here we are, sharing amongst each other, and we can afford to be more vulnerable. But someone who's in a position of power, they sort of feel like, I represent this community, and if I'm not accepted, this could be really bad. But for me, I just see I had weaknesses, other people had weaknesses, and my weaknesses and their weaknesses, did whatever they did. But we know that this is sanskaras, and we know that, and I have some very intuitive feelings about this that go back to 24 years before 34 years ago.
Yeah.
And go back to Kitty and something that Kitty said at that time and all that. So the point is, is that I know these are deeply sanskaric things that we're working on. And, Meher Baba said he was going to use America to be a spiritual leader in this world. In order for that to happen, we got to be real. We got to be so real that and we have to be full of love, and it has to be pure, and it has to be on a divine level. And I think we can do it. And I don't think this person needs to worry. I think that everybody loves this person.
Okay, better stop there.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
okay.
But because many people don't know the history, and this isn't quite the. But I'll talk to you individually, because I know some of the background. But anyway, let's
I'm not.
go on.
Okay, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're on.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
I appreciated when Sabine and then Jennifer brought up hearing the stories of other people and how important that I have discovered this is. I mean, I'm just getting it from a lot of different sources, and Baba's source to me is his what he called the fairest. This is what I recollect is the fairest fruit of creation is love with understanding, and so hearing the stories of someone will, well, I'll let something I read by Wendell Berry explain it. He had this anecdote when he was growing up on a farm in Kentucky. His family used to meet with other families that had adjacent farms. And he remembers as a boy sitting there, and these people, his parents and the neighbors, would tell stories to each other. A lot of times it was the same story over and over again, but they appreciated it. And he said what he got was that by telling the stories and knowing the stories of these other people, they were in a position to like the other people. And I think they knew this because they experienced it. So they would grow to like these people who maybe in certain ways they didn't really have that much in common. But because they knew the stories, it brought them together and they could like each other. And then the fruit of that was by liking each other, they would be in a position to help each other. Because apparently, I've never lived on a farm. I've been to some farms, but not living on one and owning one and managing one. But sometimes you need help at unexpected times. And to have neighbors that like you and that you like them is very important. So there's that practicality there. And let's see. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. But I also want to know if Peter wants to inform us of the story. It looks like your arm got broken or something.
You talking about Tina?
Oh,
Peter,
Peter.
you mean?
Oh yeah. I guess thanks for asking. Yeah, my hand. I broke my hand. I
Oh, no.
the Did you ask if I wanted to inform you if I would inform you of the story? I'll give you the I guess the dirty part of it. I was talking with a spiritual mentor yesterday, or no, Saturday morning, like I usually do, and I was starting to get very triggered. And I was starting to rage, and I said, "Can you give me a minute? I want to go and whack something." So he said, "Yeah, sure." I think he knew what I was going to do. I took a collie stick, which is a martial arts stick, and I started whipping my bed, which is a good way to release anger. And then because of the neighborhood, I wasn't comfortable continuing, so I went back. I started to talk to him, and it's like embarrassing that I've been working on myself for 28 years, and I'm in this position. Let's just say I was very upset with him over. I don't think he took full responsibility over something that he didn't do. And as he said, a lot of anger and rage I have toward my father was coming out of me, and I was more putting it on him. And the thing is, when I did the martial arts, we did exercises that condition our hand to hit things. And I was mad, and I hit my floating counter, and it kind of hurt, and I was surprised that it hurt as much. And then I hit a book that was in front of me twice. And let's just say my focus wasn't what it needed to be. And I was like, something's wrong here. Something isn't right. And he told me about how I should be careful when I do that. And I was like, I know what to do. And I just hung the phone. I said, I'm leaving, and hung up. And I iced my arm or my hand like I suspected to do. Anyway, I went down. My gut told me, Baba said to go down to the emergency room. And eventually they said it may be what's called a boxer's fracture. And the doctor eventually said that it was shattered, that there was bones shattered in my hand, in the wrist. So I'm not sure what else. I could keep on going for a little while about it, but I'm in this until they said the orthopedist will be calling me up. I may need surgery for it. I just don't get how I got from. I mean, to me, this shouldn't have happened. It's like I'm trained to hit things. I thought I was more durable than this because we train to hit a particular way to condition our hands so we could take it. And I threw a little bit of caution to the wind, and I haven't been taking care of myself as much as I used to, and it broke. Well, it's the long version of it, but I don't really want to tell the short story, but I'm sure people would rather me tell the short story, but that's some of that now.
Well, we'll give you the best for your recovery, boy. Yeah. Hey, I wanted I wanted to ask Emmy. I mean, as a therapist, I don't know if she's there. I mean, I see her image, but I was wondering if how she her sense of this whole thing in the people that she deals with. I guess she's maybe in the other room or
I'm
something.
here.
Oh,
Hi, I'm here. Yeah, I
yeah.
love this topic. I remember one time when Anthony and I were at the center, you actually said this to me. I asked you about a challenge that I was having, and you said the topic of tonight about not too near, not too far. And it was such profound, helpful wisdom that I really needed at that time. And I've referenced back to that again and again over the years. So I don't know what you're asking me specifically, but I just love this topic and I'm appreciating what everyone is sharing. Um, I mean, boundaries come to me related to the topic. There's a quote by someone named Prentice Hemphill, that says boundaries are the distance in which I can love you and me simultaneously. So I love that
Beautiful.
quote. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different instead of setting up instead of the ego setting up boundaries, it's it's the heart with its need to remain open is what's setting the boundaries, so to speak. It's the thing that's having to be safeguarded.
Mm.
I don't know if
Mm.
that makes sense, but
Mhm.
you know, I mean, the ego has all sorts of boundaries and everything like that. But this is not. Love is the thing that we're the heart is what we're trying to safeguard. And yeah. But what about any of some of your clients? What do you find? Do they kind of get into the same kind of situations where they get too close or they're too far from the people in their lives? Does that come up in your sessions with them?
Of course. Yeah. In individual couples and group scenarios, I think everybody um, has similar struggles in that with the heart remaining open when people are too close. Um, it closes the heart, or when somebody wants someone closer, it closes the heart. And so I really hear what you're saying about it's not the ego setting the boundary. It's trying to figure out how can love guide the way for there to be the right amount of closeness and distance.
Yeah, yeah, excellent.
I'd
Yeah,
like to say something, Jeff.
yeah, you go ahead.
Um,
San,
I have an example. I shared it before, but in this topic, um, I had a really dramatic, chaotic situation with my niece and her mom, and I had to drive over there to figure out to see what was going on. And I was driving from Santa Barbara, so it was an hour and a half, and I really didn't want to go. I really was fed up. I was tired. I was sick of this whole thing, but yet Baba said, "You need to go." And I knew I need to go, mainly to diffuse whatever was going on. I didn't know, but I knew it was not good. And there's a mental illness involved, and there's a lot of triggers between mom and daughter in history. So I was driving and I was talking to Mara, talking to Baba. I said, "Listen, I don't want to do this. And my heart is so shut down. I'm so sick of this, but I want to do it because I know you want me to do it. So you have to do it because I don't know what to do because this is like insane. This is not my world. There's no answer. There's nothing I can do, but you can." So I said, "Please, Baba, please." And then I started to say Baba's name all the way there. I just kept saying Baba, kept saying Mara, please help Baba, Mara, Baba, Mara, all the way over there. And I felt very calm when I got there. The fear and frustration of me having to solve it with no way to solve it was gone. And so I walked in and they were fighting and upset. And of course, as soon as I walked in, everybody wants to be on their best behavior and everything calmed down. And I just kept saying Baba's name. And there was like this magical grace that happened. So I'm telling this story to remind everyone Baba's name can do it, whether your heart's open or closed. Baba's name can do anything. So I just wanted to remind everyone that we always have Baba's beautiful name.
beautiful. Yep.
Yeah. Janet, hi, you're on.
Hi. Well, um, going back to kind of more specifically the topic, like you were talking about, not too near, not too far. I have a family member that I'm very close to, and that I can have conversations with that are very open. My heart's open and heartfelt, and it just kind of flows and everything. And she has a lot in her life right now that's difficult. Anyway, and then out of the blue, something will happen. I won't even know what I did, and I will be criticized. And she'll be critical of me, and so I'm really looking forward, Jeff, to working on this not too near, not too far, because I think what happens is that I have a lifetime of being near, pretty much. And, going with the flow, the river's flowing, blah, blah, and everything. And then when that happens, and I'm kind of in an open space and I'm too near, the criticism or the kind of passive aggressive thing will happen, and I'll just feel a slap in my face, and then I'll shut. I'll want to shut and get angry, and a little bit from what like Tony was speaking of. And so I am looking forward to gauging on a more constant basis, not so near, and trying out this whole thing of like, okay, I can have my heart open, but I don't have to be so near. So when this comes, which it will, I mean, I know it will happen because it has happened for the last 77 years. So I maybe should have learned by now, but I haven't. I get kind of drawn in to riding the waves of the emotions closely, and then something happens and I feel like I get slapped back. So I'm going to see what it happens if I just ride in a boat that's a little farther away on the river from this person, and whistle along with the flow of the river, the flow of Baba's spirit moving through and out, and so that I'm to gauge in a whole new way the possibility of not being in a reactive zone to this relationship that is loving but can be very hurtful for me. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully said. There's that line, familiarity breeds contempt. You know that? I mean, like how that can happen. Sometimes it's funny. You can be very close to somebody and suddenly they snap at you. It seems to come out of nowhere. It's not in the context that you've been relating to, and then suddenly some sarcastic remark or something comes out of them. And so adjusting the distance, the position, and where that is at with that person. Some people are very unpredictable. I know there were some people here I worked with, and they were, for the most part, they were, warm and nice relationship. But when they would kind of get into their work mode, sometimes they just come with a razor blade and just slice your heart out of nowhere. And like Tony said, and you just wind up kind of reacting in kind, and then you have to apologize. But some people, they can kind of get in there, and it comes out. There's no anticipation. Sometimes it's like you're blindsided. Hey, but
Jeff,
I
we
think
have
it's
about
getting
10
kind of
minutes.
late.
It's getting late. Yeah.
I think if you guys can save your remarks for next time, I think it's already 25 after 11, so I think it's a little bit late. But and then you can just if you're upset, just kind of keep a little distance from us, and so you keep the love flowing. Okay, let's have a goer. Or anybody have a quote? Martha, do you have anything there, or?
I do, but I just want to remind you, if are you going to discuss bring up effort and grace tonight?
Oh yeah, Here, I was thinking to see how you folks feel if we would do one week out of the month, the first Sunday, do a topic, and then the other Sundays to go back and do Effort and Grace, the book Effort and Grace. I don't know how you feel about it, but
Yeah.
it is an invaluable. I mean, what we're talking about here is so much that I gathered from Darwin and of course Erich and that. But what do you
Everybody's
think?
doing thumbs up.
Okay,
A
so
lot of thumbs
maybe
up.
okay, so I'll work on that, and I guess we can display the book from time. There might be a way to do it to display the book at the page that we're at, and then and people can read it, and then but it's very valuable.
Did you just,
Uh,
I was just out of the room. Did you say you're bringing Effort and Grace back?
yeah, I was
Is
thinking
that
of
a
doing.
dream?
Yeah, it's like the first, maybe the first Sunday of the month do a topic, and then the other Sundays do Effort and Grace. Because I'm just thinking that the land is lay fallow, and you'd be surprised that each reading of the book, and there's been enough time, I think the reading will see it from a different camera angle because we have grown in a certain way. So I'd say most of you are up for it, huh?
Well, I know who Grace is, but who's Edgar? Edgar and Grace? No. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Effort.
Marion, do you need to say something about this?
Yeah.
Marion, before we close?
Yes, I have a very pithy comment as we
Oh,
close.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a life coach, when you said, Jeff, that you're going to work on this, I want to remind you that after you accomplish what you're doing, ask what you want for a reward.
Wait, I didn't quite follow.
I said, as a life coach, there are certain kind of rules to follow to keep the channel open. When you said you would work on this about effort and grace, I said, after you accomplish what it is, your work, then you ask inwardly what you want for a reward.
Yeah,
Do you get
I
it?
don't
somehow
understand. I don't understand either.
I
Well,
don't quite
because
understand.
we stay more centered and we stay more when we accomplish a goal. If we ask inward, what do we want for reward? It's do something nice for yourself after you accomplish it.
I know exactly what he wants for his effort. He wants grace.
Yeah, I'm always open to grace. I won't refuse.
Like a little reward, a little ice cream cone or something. Yes.
No, yeah. Hey, so anyway, Goer, do you have a quote here, and
Yes, I do,
maybe,
Jeff.
and then we'll have a few moments of silence, and then maybe sometimes Martha has something too. Okay.
So Baba says, carrying on all worldly duties with a pure heart and a clean mind, and with equal acceptance of success or failure, while remaining detached in the midst of intense activity, is one of the ways of achieving Baba. Jai Baba.
Beautiful.
Could you read that again? Go here, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Carrying on all worldly duties with a pure heart and a clean mind, and with equal acceptance of success or failure, while remaining detached in the midst of intense activity, is one of the ways of achieving Baba.
Yeah, let's have
Jai
a few
Baba.
moments of
Beautiful.
silence. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Marta, do you have?
You are in every choice I make, and no matter my decisions, you will always be my answer. You are in every choice I make, and no matter my decisions, you will be my answer, Baba.
Beautiful. So let's get Nasreen to come out of the shadows there. And Nasreen?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, everybody's waiting.
Okay. Already, I'm ready. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Jai
Jai
Baba, Jai
Baba.
Baba.
So
Thank you.
Nasreen,
Yes.
and Mahmoud, her husband, were here, just a couple of weeks ago, and Mahmoud is 93. So, there's no excuse. Age is not an excuse for not coming to the center.
Now they were celebrating his 94 birthday.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah. So,
I'm not around that age. Don't make a mistake.
yeah. We won't even ask.
I am her daughter. His daughter. I'm just joking.
She's 72.
Sorry.
Anyway, much love, and I'll let you know what happens for next week.
Okay.
And whoever's doing the host, maybe
Just remember next week is Memorial Day weekend, and some of us are at Sahavas or at the Heartland Center.
Oh.
So attendance might be different.
Oh,
Meaning we won't be there.
Should we should we take the week off and?
I just don't do anything that good or fun.
Okay.
That's,
Well,
That's a good idea, Jeff. Yeah, take it off. That's a good idea.
Is Marana this weekend or next weekend?
This weekend, coming weekend.
This coming week, maybe I'll send out an email, let you know.